Season 2, Part 2 of Wednesday has just been released, and with it being almost a month since the first 4 episodes landed on our screens, we now had the 4 episodes that would see off the season. With Wednesday being in a coma the last time we left her, Tyler being on the run, and Slurp looking like he was consuming the brains of anybody that was in his path. This season followed on directly from that, and we saw the final episode have a climactic end. So with that, let's dive into the ending of Season 2 and break down all the important details. Here is Wednesday Season 2 Part 2 Ending Explained. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. The Ending Explained. Well, with the premonition of Enid's death being on the horizon in this season, and us thinking that it was gonna come at the hands of Tyler, that wasn't actually the case, and it didn't end up happening. It was close to happening due to Wednesday reading the writing on Rosalind Rotwood's grave and her hand being removed from the candle, which meant that there was going to be a price to pay. And that price was set to be her life following both Enid and Wednesday's minds being switched. If they didn't manage to switch back, then it meant that the both of them would die. However, as we saw, with the both of them understanding each other properly for the first time in their friendship, they managed to regain their bodies back, which meant that neither of them died and the premonition no longer existed. But instead, there was a different one that took its place. There was a gravestone that was present, which showed that an Addams family member was going to be killed. The main story in this season was centered around Isaac, who we knew was Slurp, and he wanted to save his sister, Francois, who was patient 1938 that was kept inside of Willow Hill, which turned out to be Tyler's mother. Hydes live a shorter life than most, and now, after being imprisoned for many years, she was on the cusp of death. But with Isaac's machine, he had the ability to be able to save her by removing her powers. It actually turned out that Isaac was Tyler's uncle, and his death was something that occurred due to him trying to save his sister and play God when he was at Nevermore. When he was younger, he was friends with Gomez and Morticia Addams, and it turned out that Gomez actually had the same electrical abilities that Pugsley had when he was younger. Isaac wanted to use those abilities to power the machine and save his sister, but he didn't tell Gomez what he was going to do. When Morticia intervened to stop it from happening by chopping off his hand, it caused the tower to explode, for Gomez to lose his powers and for Isaac to die. There was a line during the beginning of the final episode which was focused on the past never being the past and it still existing in the present because they were living it. And that's exactly what this finale was. Isaac had kidnapped Pugsley and was planning on treating Pugsley just like how he treated Gomez 30 years ago. Harnessing his powers and draining him of them to be able to remove the Hyde's curse in his sister. But the twist in the tale came when he picked up Tyler and planned on draining him of his abilities because Tyler's mother didn't want him to have a restricted life, one like what she did. However, Tyler didn't want to lose his powers though. The Addams family had cottoned on to what was happening by then, and after Wednesday was rescued after being buried under the skull tree by Enid transforming into a werewolf on a full moon, something which showed that she valued her friendship and the life of Wednesday over her own because, as she was an alpha, it meant that she was going to be stuck in that form forever whilst other wolves would be hunting her down. The family then climbed up the tower and interrupted the process. Wednesday freed Tyler after he told her to kill him, and that then meant that the fight between mother and son ensued whilst in the form of the Hydes. Whilst they were fighting, Francois found herself hanging on the edge of the building, but she chose to let herself drop, knowing full well that her life was going to be over anyway if she returned to her human form and that the relationship with her son wouldn't be the same. We even saw an explosion occur like it did in the past, tying back into the past being in the present. This was where we were left to guess which Addams family member was going to die, and as they all awoke one by one, it turned out that it was none of them, but that could be related to next season. However, Isaac didn't actually die this time from the explosion, and with Thing being attached to his hand because, as we found out, that was originally Isaac's hand that was chopped by Morticia when it came to stopping him 30 years ago. Even though Isaac was utilizing his powers on Wednesday and was planning on choking her, Thing took over and was able to gain control and ultimately took out the heart of Isaac, rendering him dead. It was quite a haunting sight seeing Thing trying to detach himself from a dead Isaac that was on the floor, but he did manage to do so and he was then reunited with the likes of the Addams family. When it came to the very end of the final episode, we saw that after Enid was stuck in her werewolf form, she was last spotted on a wildlife cam headed north almost at the Canadian border. And with Wednesday having promised her that she'd go and find her because she would always be there for her and she was part of her pack, she stuck to that promise. So over the holidays before the next academic year at Nevermore, Wednesday wasn't going to be going home. She was going to be heading north with the hopes of being reunited with her best friend. However, she didn't know what form she'd find her in and what the reception would be like. This was going to be happening with Uncle Fester too, so it showed that even though he was on the run and the sheriff didn't know where he wasn't actually that far away. With regards to Tyler, he survived the ordeal, but he was now an orphan, as in the space of one season he lost both his mother and his father. Professor Capri appeared when he was visiting the grave and basically said how she was looking to form a group of hides that had no master, and they'd find solace in basically being together whilst not having a master. Almost combining the werewolf instinct and mindset that she had, but instilling it into the hides. So it would almost change their behaviour, which could be quite interesting to see. Her father was a hide, and we also know that her boyfriend from the past was also a hide that she managed to escape from. So I do wonder if there are some sinister intentions that she does have buried beneath her plan. The main villain that we had in this season at the school was Principal Dort, and we found out that he was actually responsible for the Morning Song cult. He essentially employed Gideon to be the frontman as he was an actor, but Dort was the puppet master in the background orchestrating everything. After using Bianca's siren abilities to get Hester to leave everything in her will to the Nevermore Academy, with him actually planning on taking all of the money for himself, Wednesday and co devised a plan to take him down, and on the night of the gala, Agnes managed to take his pendant, which made him immune from the siren's words, and Bianca got him to admit his plan to the whole school. With him threatening Bianca, Ajax used his powers, turned him to stone, and the very chandelier that he set alight landed on him and turned him into a bunch of rocks, rendering him dead. Right at the end of the episode, we saw that Wednesday was given Aunt Ophelia's notebook by her mother, and within it there was a direct similarity between the both of them. The bleeding from the eyes and the vision that Wednesday had. We saw that Aunt Ophelia was actually being kept inside Hester's basement, and on the wall it was written, Wednesday Addams must die. So I wonder if, even though the premonition didn't come true in this season of the show about an Addams family member being killed, I wonder if it's actually going to come true in the next season of the show, maybe due to the journal and the introduction of Aunt Ophelia. My review of the season. Personally, I thought this season was okay. I don't think it was as good as season 1, and I also think splitting it up into 2 parts hurt the pacing and rhythm of it slightly. It's a show that isn't really designed for 2 parts because, if I'm being honest, I forgot a lot of what happened in part 1 and had to revisit it. I thought it was a shame that the Enid death storyline was forgotten about because I felt like it was building towards something good. So for it to just go, it felt a little bit pointless. However, I do kind of like the fact that Wednesday is going to be venturing off to save her in the next season of the show. I also think the whole Morning Song cult felt a bit wasted. I get that Dort was the mastermind behind it all, but he was just taken out so easily at the end. When it came to Weem's returning and Lady Gaga also making a guest appearance, I quite liked that. Weem's played an important role and it didn't really feel like she was just shoehorned into it. The performances are something that I can never really fault in the show. It's got a great cast and the characters are the very thing that we buy into. One thing that I wish we got more of in this season that I feel was littered throughout season 1 was the students showcasing their powers. I don't know, it just felt like there wasn't much of that this time round. Wednesday is one of Netflix's most popular shows ever, and even though season 2 didn't reach the heights of season 1, I feel like we're definitely going to get a season 3. It's a decent show, it's easy to watch, and it pulls the numbers for the platform, so it seems like that's a given. So, there you have it, Wednesday Season 2 Part 2 Ending Explained.